Good afternoon. We are back with another edition of SFE Stories. For those of you that don't know who I am or don't remember or haven't tuned in to watch us before, I'm Billy Bolden. I serve as the Assistant Dean of Students for Development and Student Leadership and the Director of Sorority and Fraternity Engagement. Today, my guest is 2018 Collegiate Panhellenic Council President Jackie Petsinger. How are you doing, Jackie?
Hello, I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing great. I think we're doing the best we can today on this day of the week,
We are.
just trying to make things happen. So, Jackie, why don't you go ahead and get us started and just kick us off with a quick intro, who you are, where do you come from, what do you do, what do the people need to know about you?
Yeah. So my name is Jackie Petsinger. In college, my name was Jackie Lawler, as most of you probably know me by that knew me in school. I grew up in Ogden, Iowa, around 30 minutes west of Ames. And I started in Iowa State in 2015, where I was a member of Gamma Phi Beta sorority. During my time at Iowa State and in Gamma Phi Beta, I was, as you see on the screen here, our chapter president in 2017. Before that, I was our house manager as well. And then I was the 2018, as Billy said earlier, Collegiate Panhellenic Council president. I majored in supply chain management in the College of Business and had an awesome 4 years at Iowa State. I graduated in 2019, and since graduation, which was a little over a year ago, I moved to Illinois and I work for Caterpillar.
Awesome. Well, thank you for spending the time with us today and talking through your experience both as a collegian, and I know we're going to get an opportunity to talk about your experience as an alumni. So the first question I have for you is a question that, well, two questions, I guess, that I know you're going to hate. First one is, can you tell us your feelings about LaCroix?
Oh, okay. Love it. So that's a little inside joke from the 2018 presidents. So there is a lot of opinions. I love it. I still drink it. Are you still a hater, or have you come around?
No, I wouldn't define myself as a hater, but I'm not on Team LaCroix.
Okay, that's fair. I suggest the key lime if anybody's trying to dip their toes in. That's a good entry. LaCroix. We'll see if you can come around to it.
Do you have different feelings about name brand LaCroix versus the Trader Joe's version of LaCroix?
Yeah, good question. So I've tried a lot of different types, and I would say it really varies on the bubbliness. So if you like carbonation, LaCroix is good. But if you don't like carbonation, there's other brands, but I don't know what those are because I like the carbonation. That's why I drink it. So you'll have to maybe talk to another LaCroix expert on that.
Perfect. The other question I have for you, Jackie, is when is the last time that you visited the Jackie Lawler Memorial Crosswalk?
Great question. So I would say probably last football season. So October, I saw it was still there, and it had actually been freshly painted, which was nice to see. So I'm happy to see they're keeping it up. For those of you that don't know what that crosswalk is, it was kind of my pride and joy of my council presidency. It's on Ash Avenue by, what street would that be? It's between Lincoln Way and Knapp Street. At the corner of Ash and what's the other one that hits it?
It's Sunset Boulevard?
Sunset. Yeah, I think it's Sunset. It's kind of weird how all the streets kind of come together at one point. But I noticed there was no crosswalk between Knapp and Lincoln Way. And my freshman year, there had been a student that was killed by a Cyride bus. So I knew we had a lot of our students that live on the east side of campus, a lot of our sorority and fraternity chapters and apartment buildings. So wanted to find a way for them to safely cross because I had seen so many people almost get hit by cars, me being one of them. So that was a pretty big thing, and I'm really proud of it, and I'm happy to see it's still there.
I remember when you brought up the idea of doing it, you're like, can I just get out there and paint it myself? Can I just get a can of paint and go out there and paint it? And I know that the other council presidents that year had a lot of fun telling you that they were going to put a sign up and name it after you.
Yeah, they were going to call it my memorial crosswalk, even though I'm very much still alive and I'm still here.
Thankfully. Yes, and I know your sorority sisters had a little fun with it too. They did a Beatles album rendition.
Yeah. Oh yeah, I still get videos all the time of people walking across it. So
Yeah.
we'll see if that carries on past the generation of people I was in school with, but it's pretty funny.
So, creating something very physical and having a tangible structure to say, hey, we did that. I think that's a huge accomplishment. Are there other things that you're particularly proud of, either as council president or as chapter president, that you were able to accomplish?
Yeah, that's a good question. So there's a lot of things on my team when I was council president they accomplished. I would say one of the coolest things that we did was during primary recruitment when we brought a speaker to campus and had all of the sororities all together in a like sisterhood type of activity. Basically, the point of that was to show, yes, recruitment is competitive, but at the end of the day, we're all here for the same goal. We're all here to become stronger women. So our recruitment vice presidents put that together and they did an awesome job. And I thought that was a really unique experience. I know right now, I don't know if that's possible with COVID. It'd have to be a virtual format. But it was really cool that we had that opportunity to get everybody together. And so there was the first part was a lecture, like speaker format. And the second part was actually a workout activity to show mental and physical strength. I thought it was really fun. I cannot remember the speaker's name. Was it Elise?
Yeah, I think Elise.
And the Strong Movement was the name of her company. So that was a really cool opportunity that we were able to put on for the community.
What about as chapter president?
Chapter president. Yeah, so being a chapter president is very tough. So if you're a chapter president, you're watching this, like you're doing awesome. You're probably halfway through your term, keep going. Wow, there's so much that we did during my term as chapter president. So our exec team at Gamma Phi Beta is comprised of 6 team members plus the president, which I know is kind of a smaller group than some of the other chapters that have a larger executive board. But as chapter president, we really focused, our executive team really focused on mental health, not just of each other, but of the whole chapter. And making sure the experience for our members, it wasn't just you're showing up, but we really care about you, and making sure everybody's feeling safe, whether that be physically or mentally, and making sure everybody understands that the place at Gamma Phi Beta is always safe, it's always welcoming, and it should be like the greatest experience that you've had, and you should never leave feeling unsafe or unwanted. And so I think we made strides in our mental health and just making it aware that it's okay to not be okay, and then getting resources for those that really needed it.
I think it's such a great and important lesson to focus on. And it's really something that probably stands the test of time. I think even as we think about, the COVID world that we live in today, belongingness in a sisterhood is probably more important than it ever has been. And
right.
Finding that space to lean on your sisters and to talk to them about your experience and maybe, where you're struggling, where you're doing well.
Right. I know post-college, so I moved away from all friends. I kind of had to start fresh and plant myself somewhere new for my job, which was very challenging. And I know others that have done that have felt very similar. But I think having those friends and those sisters from college, from my sorority, were really important, because I could send a text and be like, okay, hey, so how do you make friends post-college? What do you do? Like, what have you guys done that has helped you? So it's really nice to be able to have those people to lean on and be vulnerable with and get that extra help when you need it. And I think that's something that we really learned in college is okay. To make friends when you need it.
The other question, Jackie, that I have for you in particular is, when I think about my own Greek experience, I kind of came into Greek life later in life. I never really thought about fraternity. I didn't really know anything about it. It wasn't something that I necessarily resonated with coming in. So I would be one of those people that probably would be classified as like a maybe joiner or a never joiner who actually joined a fraternity or sorority. But I feel like you're an always joiner. I feel like from the very beginning, like you knew sorority life was part of it for you. Do you want to talk a little bit about that, or why that was maybe part of your family belief and direction growing up?
Yeah. So my dad was in a fraternity in college, still keeps in contact with his fraternity brothers and is really involved in his national organization. So I kind of always grew up with my dad a part of it. And literally,
finished national president, right?
Yeah, he was national president for his fraternity, Sigma Pi, from I think it was 2017 to 2019, I believe it was. I might be 1 year off on that. So our summer vacations were going to the conventions every 2 years. That's what we'd do. No matter where the convention was, we'd be going there. So that was fun. We got to go to different places, and I got to meet, all my dad's fraternity brothers, and that was really fun. I kind of just thought that was normal. Turns out that's like really not normal for people to do that for their summer vacation. And then also one of my older sisters was in a sorority on campus at Iowa State. So she's 6 years older than me. So I was in middle school and she was in high school, and I actually got to go spend the night at the Gamma Phi Beta house, where she was a member of, and then that's where I became a member of as well. I think I was in 7th grade, and I got to like kind of partake in the sisterhood and do those fun things with her and her friends. And I've thought about this before. I don't really remember a time where I questioned whether or not I would join a sorority or not. When I signed up to go to Iowa State, I also signed up for recruitment. It wasn't really something I even thought of. I was just like, yeah, of course I'm doing that. Like, I never even asked myself why not. So I'm an always joiner. But I know not every student has that experience and that family experience. Sometimes a student might be a first generation college student, or just maybe they've had family go to college but have never been in a sorority or fraternity, no matter what council. So I think another way that I really tried to promote the sorority and fraternity experience is through social media, and sharing the positives, because I think currently in the media, there's a lot of negatives about fraternity and sorority life. And yeah, there are some negatives, and like everybody is working to fix those, but there's also so many positives, like academic support, friendship, like I spoke about earlier, giving back to the community. Like I could make a list like so long. So just trying to share those experiences as you have them is really important, to give those maybe joiners or never joiners just the chance to see the good and see what opportunities could be there for them.
Yeah, absolutely. I love that advice for our current members to take their experience and share it more, tell people more about it, and I think about that often when I travel, when I don't travel anymore that we have to can't travel, but before when I would travel, right. And I would be on an airplane or something, and somebody would ask me, "Oh, what do you do?" Right. I think that part of my career I struggled to say, "Oh, I work with sorority and fraternity students, and I help them make their dreams come true." Right.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think that was an answer that I was willing to give, and that's changed over time. I think I've learned to love that and to embrace it and talk about it. I think there's sometimes a fear of what other people will say about us or what we do. And I remember when I went to first work for my national fraternity, my mom asked me the question. She's like, "What are you going to do? Plan the parties?" Yeah, actually, I am, right. But also, we're gonna do a whole lot more, and here's what that looks like. And so let's talk about that. And so I certainly think that we can all be great ambassadors of this community when we learn to lean in a little bit more to our experience and to tell our story and to tell the things that really matter. And I
Right.
think that's particularly important this fall.
Yeah, I totally agree.
So you graduated college, you moved to Illinois, you started working for Caterpillar.
Yeah.
I don't know that I don't know a ton about Caterpillar, other than when I see the machinery on a construction site.
Yeah.
I also have, I guess, this perception that Caterpillar is probably like a man's world. And so I'm hoping maybe you could tell us a little bit about like what Caterpillar is as a company, and then also just your experience and what that might look like in that type of environment.
Yeah. So Caterpillar is a company. We build many things. So we build the construction equipment that you see on the side of the road, but we also build mining equipment that you don't see on the side of the road, and most people don't see because it's out in the very remote regions of the world, mining for different things. We also build generators. So those are used a lot in natural disaster situations, also in marine, the marine field, and also in train engines. So we build a lot of different areas, but it all kind of comes back to the same purpose, which is building a better world. So everything I do, whether it's big or small, has an impact on, let's say, building a new road in Africa that's going to allow somebody to get clean water for the first time. So if I'm ever like thinking of what is my purpose in this role. This mindless task I'm doing has no reason. I just think about what we build and how it helps people. So
that's really cool.
Yeah, I really love it. And I've been really fortunate to be working here now for about a year and a half. I actually worked, well, I guess it's about 2.5 years. I worked in college part-time remotely for Caterpillar after I had an internship. So I've been here since the summer of 2018. Yeah, I think 2018. Yeah. So, and then your second part of the question is how it's kind of a male-dominated field. So I would definitely say that has rang true in a lot of meetings that I'm in, and a lot of different projects that I'm in. It definitely is more males at the table. I'd say that also is similar to my experience in college and my supply chain management degree. It's something that not a lot of females lean towards. Not really sure why exactly. I loved the degree and I loved the experience that I had at Iowa State. So I definitely encourage male or female to look into supply chain management. But something interesting that I have learned in school through different leadership classes and through my experience as a president of my chapter and of the council is when you're in the room, if you are the only female, which no matter what field you're in, that might be a situation that you're in, is just to kind of acknowledge that and don't be afraid to speak up. So there's plenty of times where I'm definitely intimidated, whether that be by gender or let's say by age. That's another experience I have since I'm 23. Very new to the workforce. A lot of people at Caterpillar have been here for 25 to 30 years. A lot of the people I work with are very seasoned, which is awesome that I get to learn from all those people. But I just recognize, what is my gender, what is my age, and then a few other things too, because that can be perceived in certain ways during conversations, whether I speak up, whether I don't speak up, how I say certain things, just being aware of all those perceptions and all of the identities that you have, whether that be something you're proud of or something you're not proud of. So for me, as a young female, I think the perception is often they're not going to say anything. She's going to be quiet. That is just not me at all. For those that know me, and Billy, I'm sure you know what I'm talking about here. I've never been one to really sit on the sidelines and watch. And if I have an opinion, I'm going to say it. So I would say that is both a good and a bad trait. So I try to check myself, like I was just saying, and make sure it is, the right time to speak up and, say my feelings on something. And I haven't really noticed any negatives based on, me being a female and me being young. I would say, if anything, it's kind of empowering to know that I'm in the room with people, let's say 25 plus years older than me, and I'm able to learn from them. And, I definitely am an even player. And I definitely attribute that a lot to my experiences in the sorority and fraternity community. I don't think I would have the, what word am I looking for? Just like the drive and the passion and the know-how in those situations. And then my experience at Iowa State, my academics. I've used so much from school, things I learned in class, like things I thought, I'm never going to use that. I use it every day. So always remember those things you think you're never going to learn because you're going to be happy you learned them.
I love that your experience, at the very least, helped you feel more prepared for the workforce and the space you're going to be in. If you had to give advice to a student entering supply chain as a field of study, what advice would you give to them?
Good question. So there's different areas of supply chain that you can go into. So there's transportation logistics, there's manufacturing, there's inventory management, among a few other areas. So I work, my first role at Caterpillar, I'm in a rotational program, was in manufacturing. Extremely interesting. I grew up on a farm, but I had never been in a manufacturing environment. But now my new role is in inventory management. So I've kind of gotten a little bit of feel for two different areas in the field. And I would say, even if you don't think your interest is going to be, let's say you think you love transportation, don't just shut your ears and shut your eyes to the other two areas in class, because like I said, you never know when you're going to need something or need to have that knowledge. So be open-minded. I didn't know if I'd love manufacturing. I loved it. I didn't know if I'd love inventory management. I love it. So I don't know what I'll end up doing long-term. for a career because I seem to like everything so far. But definitely just keep an open mind, and you never know what you're going to do.
Yeah. I know for me, I'm not surprised to hear that you love everything.
Yeah.
I don't know many things that you did in college that you didn't love, and maybe that's the question, right? Maybe you
Yeah.
do know that answer, right? But
No,
I don't think that, I typically don't think that Jackie spends her time doing things she doesn't love.
Right, because if I don't love it, I'm not going to do it.
Yeah.
So I definitely think like spending your time and energy on stuff you love is important. And if you don't love it, then find a way to love it if it's something you have to do. Because, we all have 24 hours in a day, and you can spend those however you want. So make it at least something you enjoy, or spin it in a way you would enjoy it, even if you don't.
So speaking of things that you enjoy, I want to know about your favorite Gamma Phi Beta memory. What's the story that you can tell us that really highlights how much you love your sorority?
Oh, my favorite memory, that's pretty tough. I'd say I have two. I'll tell them both pretty briefly. The first one's a funny one. So at Gamma Phi Beta, when I was in school, not for sure if they're still doing it or not, but with COVID, especially probably not. But on preference night, we always had chocolate covered strawberries and little cheesecakes. And so for preference night, you can have, is it anywhere from, I don't know how many events you have. Is it 4, 3, 4, 1 to 4? Like you can have a varying number.
Yeah.
So it's kind of a long night. I think each one's about an hour. So after 5 hours of talking with potential new members, finally you can breathe, and the whole week of recruitment is over, and you can just finally relax because there's really nothing else you can do now. Like the chips have all fallen where they're going to fall, and we got to eat all the leftover food, like all the leftover chocolate covered strawberries, and every year we would eat all the chocolate covered strawberries, blast music, and dance in our dining room. So that was always something really fun to look forward to. And I really missed that when I was disaffiliated as council president. I saw the videos, but didn't get to be a part of it. So that's a really fun memory. Just every.
So they did not have the chocolate covered strawberries this year.
They didn't? Okay.
Well, because we did food free preference night.
Oh, okay.
This year because of COVID, and then ended up being virtual. So maybe they still ordered them in for themselves, but they weren't dance parties. They did.
Well, hopefully this will make them come back.
Definitely had their dance party this year.
Okay, good.
But they did it in the front lawn.
Okay, that's good. That's good to hear. That's awesome. Yeah, so that was a really fun memory. And then more of a serious memory, still really fun, was when I was in school. We celebrated our 100 years of being on campus. So we had alumni that were living, from current members to, I'm not sure how old the oldest alumni was that was present, but we had alumni come from everywhere of all ages all together to Ames. And that was just really special to see the sisterhood that we have today, which is amazing. And just, I'm so lucky to have been a part of it. To back in the 1950s, the sisterhood was just as amazing there, and they are still friends today. We actually have a story that was on, I think it was NBC, of letters that are written each year by a pledge class to each other. And that's how they kept in touch back in the day, and that's how they still keep in touch today. They write a letter each year that they share then with the sisters to kind of catch up, and so they know what's going on in their life. And it's just so cool because we still have that awesome sisterhood, and I was able to be a part of it and still am. So I'd say those are probably my favorite memories.
Two great examples of sorority and connections and relationships. So thank you for sharing both those with us.
Yeah.
Jackie, it's hard to imagine, but we're kind of coming to the end of our time. I feel like we just jumped on the call.
I know.
Just now we're already there. But I like to wrap up every call with the same 3 questions for everybody, just because I think they're 3 great questions, and I don't know, I like them, so I want to share them with everybody. So I want to make sure you have time to answer those. So the first one for me is, I want to know of a quote, a line, something from a creed, a motto, a song, a poem, something that's important to Gamma Phi Beta that you strive to live your life by.
Yeah, so I would say one of my favorite quotes is our open motto, "Founded on a Rock." So founded on a rock, it comes from the Bible, but it can be used in really any sense of life. So founded on a rock to me means that anything I do should be set in a firm foundation. So the rock is the strongest thing. And if you're going to build your house on the rock, it is going to be strong. You shouldn't build it on the mud, on the hill. You should be building it on the rock. That's going to be the firmest foundation. So kind of like what we talked about earlier, I do things that I like. I don't really do things that I don't like. I think because in everything I do, I make sure that it has a firm foundation and it's going to be something that I love. So Founded on a Rock is definitely something I look for when it comes to strength and my priorities.
Awesome. Next question is kind of a fun question for you, right?
Okay.
So in addition to creating that strong foundation, that you talk about, we want to get the other side of you and think about how you're learning or enjoying your time. And so what are two things that either you're reading or you're writing, not writing, watching, something that you're reading or watching right now? Two examples.
So kind of a hybrid, a podcast. I really love podcasts because if I'm working on something, I can still be listening to a podcast, or if I'm driving, I can listen to a podcast. So huge fan of podcasts. I would say a podcast that I recommend is Freakonomics podcast. I think it informs me of things that I never would have went out and researched on my own. And it's a very unbiased and very vast podcast. Like it can be anything from the medical field to world economics and everything in between. So I highly recommend that podcast in general, plus that podcast specifically. And I would say for watching, this is kind of a fun one. Everybody needs a laugh every once in a while, especially right now. So I highly recommend Parks and Recreation. If you've never seen that show, The Office, is also kind of in that same ballpark. I love both. Don't ask me which is my favorite. I don't have that answer yet. I'm still soul searching. So I'd say right now, like something that's enjoyable, Parks and Rec is my vote.
Yeah. Unpopular opinion. I don't like either Parks and Rec or The Office.
That's really too bad. I'm sorry.
I know a lot of people love them. So I would highly recommend them for people to watch and learn and see if you like it or not. Because I think both of those are two highly recommended TV shows to watch. Just neither one is my cup of tea.
Yeah, the humor it's a specific type of humor. And if you don't have that humor, you'll realize.
Yeah, I think it's quick. I think you can watch one 30-minute episode and know, like, this is for me, this is not for me. Yeah. That's how it's going to go.
Yeah, no, I agree.
So I'll share one with you. Since you shared a podcast, I'll share a podcast. It's been a while since I've talked about CrossFit. So talk about CrossFit for a minute. There's a podcast called Chasing Excellence. Ben Bergeron, he's one of the top CrossFit coaches. He's based out of the New England, outside of Boston. He does a podcast that's really incredible that, one, gives a lot of advice for how to do CrossFit, how to be successful in that space, and a lot of transferable life lessons, how to live your daily life. So
cool.
I'll listen to that. So
I'm always looking for new podcasts.
Yeah, cool. One final question for you to wrap up the day, and that is, Jackie, what brings you joy?
That's a good one. I would say there's a lot of things, because like I mentioned earlier, if you're not doing something you like, find a way to make you like it or don't do it if you have that option. But something that brings me joy, which I never thought would, is my dog. So that might sound corny. I never really wanted a dog, but my husband really did. So he kind of convinced us to get one. But I would definitely say my dog brings me a lot of joy. Dogs never have a bad day. They're always excited to see you. And he, wants to go on walks, which is great. Getting exercise with him is awesome. And he's just always happy. He's a golden retriever, so he's always smiling from ear to ear.
We love that. We love that. I think there's few things in life that bring as much happiness as a dog wagging its tail.
I know. You're just like, oh, he's right in front of me right now. And he just.
Nice. Awesome, Jackie. Well, it's been so great to catch up with you. It's so great to have you on. Any final thoughts you want to share with the viewers?
Well, just thanks for having me, and I hope to make it back to campus soon. And I miss, all my sisters at Gamma Phi Beta and my council presidents that I served with. I had an amazing experience at Gamma Phi, and my year on council was awesome. I couldn't have asked for 3 better presidents to serve with. So I miss everybody and miss you too, Billy.
Thanks, Jackie. Same.